Go ahead, get it out. He's gonna cackle for a
the
little
giggles?
bit.
Yeah, I always giggle a little bit. Yeah.
You have a blooper reel?
Oh, we have plenty of bloopers.
Keep it in.
All right. Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome to Equity or Bust, where construction meets real estate and fortunes are built. Today, we have a special guest, Jon Spino, long-term attorney and confidant, an expert in estate planning, trust, business law, and real estate. He's also been a frequent speaker in many different matters. He translates complex situations into actionable steps for his clients, as well as he is ranked as a top lawyer for Boston Magazine and recognized as being a super
lawyer, yeah.
Super lawyer then too in Massachusetts as well. So welcome, Jon Spino.
Thank you.
Hey, Jon. Hey, thanks for coming today.
I'm Leo, by the way.
Oh my God, I did it again. Oh my God.
It's fine. Just keep going. Let's go.
It's twice I did that.
That's fine.
And we have Leo, general contractor extraordinaire, an expert in building systems, project management, and all things with construction too as well. Then, and my name is Young. So Jon, what is a super attorney?
So super lawyer is a designation.
Super lawyer?
Yeah, so
Okay.
super lawyer. So it's a designation that is put out by, I don't even know the magazine now, to be honest with you. But it's a super lawyer magazine. It's sponsored by a company. And what they do is they rate attorneys. It's kind of nice because it's basically, they don't actually rate the attorneys. Other attorneys rate you. So it's a recognition that other attorneys kind of bestow on you.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of nice.
And I didn't even know you were famous. I didn't know you were in magazines too as well.
Yeah. Boston Magazine, yeah.
I didn't know super lawyer was a thing. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
And
It's
then,
kind of nice. Like I said, it's just recognition. At the end of the day, does it mean anything? Probably not, but at least, someone.
It's nice to be recognized in your field.
Did a good job.
Yeah.
so I know that you do a lot with. I mean, obviously, you've worked with us many times in real estate transactions, and like one of the things I see that any sort of developer typically does is that they almost always, and just like us, we almost always put something in an LLC.
Yeah.
Now, for the viewers who don't know the advantages and disadvantages of an LLC, could you give them?
Sure. Yeah, so the advantages of an LLC are basically for liability protection.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a developer and you're basically buying a property, if you buy it in your own individual name and then something goes wrong, then basically someone can lodge a lawsuit. And if they bring a lawsuit, they can go after all of your other assets. So basically everything's on the table. With an LLC, you're kind of creating a bubble around that particular property or project. And so that bubble contains that liability. So if something goes wrong, they can go after that asset or the assets of the LLC, which are traditionally just that property. And so basically everything is contained. It's not an absolute protection. There's certain ways that, like I said, it's a bubble. So you can pierce it, but it provides another layer of protection. So in addition to insurance, it's another way that developers can insulate themselves if something happens. And that something could be someone gets hurt. It could be that they don't do the project correctly or something is missed. It could be that they buy a property and it's got a ton of environmental issues that they're not aware of at the time. So all of these little things can kind of help, can pop up, and this LLC can help as far as making sure that the liability is somewhat contained.
So we typically would talk about not just like the triumphs, but also kind of challenges that people have. Could you give me a situation where somebody should have had an LLC that you're aware of, and then
You don't have to name names
you don't
or
have to name
anything.
names or
Yeah, no,
anything.
yeah.
Where they got into hot water.
Yeah, it's basically, in all honesty, the one that comes to mind, that's why I mentioned the environmental one, was these clients bought a building, and when they were basically renovating the building, they didn't empty out the oil tank, and they punctured it, and it leaked oil. And this was a commercial building that had just one of those big tanks, and it leaked a ton of oil. And so there was this, massive cleanup and everything, and then the contamination issues and stuff. And I don't know that the LLC would have helped, because basically the insurance company stepped in and, they had to deal with it and clean it up and stuff. But the problem was that, in all honesty, they were nervous. These guys were nervous because now you explain to them, there's an action being brought. You got to clean all this stuff up. This is what your exposure is and stuff. So had they had an LLC, you could say, look, it should be contained within the LLC, these assets and stuff. It didn't end up going anywhere because the insurance company came in and kind of took care of it and everything. I mean, they had a huge cleanup project and they were delayed by months. But those are like little things that pop up. Other instances are where something as simple as buying, let's say you buy a 2-family and you turn it into condos, and you do like a gut rehab, and you have like you offer a limited warranty, and so basically you stand behind that warranty. Well, if you get a tenant that feels you're not being super responsive, or you're not addressing all of their issues and wants to bring a lawsuit, again, if you own that condo as an individual, or you own that project as an individual, then you have more exposure. Where if it's an LLC, your exposure is somewhat contained within that LLC. And that's something that we probably see a little bit more of. I will say that most experienced developers will go ahead and have an LLC, where you'll see some of the newbies, if you will, that don't do it, or they don't want to do it because of the cost associated with it. So, but usually it's one good scare, and they're often running to get that LLC in place.
Yeah, my understanding is your personal assets are all on the line if you don't have an LLC.
Yeah, because they're going after you individually, so everything's on the.
Or if you do something individually, then your business is on the line too.
You probably don't want to, if you're doing the development, you probably don't want to do it under your company name either, because
correct. You want to set up another entity.
Yeah.
And actually, so if you're looking for like the gold standard versus the silver standard versus the bronze standard, the gold standard is every project has its own LLC. Mm-hmm. It gets expensive because now if you're running multiple projects, you got all these LLCs. And in Massachusetts, an LLC will run you $520 just on the filing fees, and then every year your accountant has to do accounting for it, and usually a tax return. So it adds up, and you have to kind of keep the books and everything kind of squared away. So it adds time and stuff. But that's the gold standard: is each project has its own LLC. Sometimes what you'll see is people will get a little bit and say, well, you know what, I'm going to run this smaller project with this bigger project, and just kind of combine them into their own LLC. And it's the same thing with people that own rental properties. Ideally, each rental property will have its own LLC, again, the gold standard, but sometimes you'll see people that will bundle and put a couple properties under one LLC or another couple properties under another LLC. It's better than not having an LLC, but if you're looking for, how to do it correctly and make sure that you're doing the best you can possibly do, each project, its own LLC. And so the same thing with like a development company. If you have a company that runs a project and you're buying a home, you want to set up an LLC just for that property that you just bought. So that way you can keep things separate. It's also probably better from an accounting standpoint for tax purposes too.
It is. I think, what do we have, like 6 or 7 LLCs open right now?
No, we have more than that.
More than that?
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
I think it's like we're right around over 10. I think.
Over 10, yeah. Every single property there is an LLC.
Yeah,
We've actually started talking about recycling them when they get old enough.
It's definitely.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that though. It depends on how far they get and stuff. Sometimes it's better to start a new LLC than to bring an old, or to keep an old LLC alive. Because basically, if that old LLC, you're not using it anymore, you can let that expire, and you'll save some money by the time you start a new project. Gotcha. But you can do that if you're going to go from one project to the next, as long as you're fairly confident that you don't have any additional liability from that first project. Then you could do that.
I mean, some of them were like 3-4 years away from what we did with them, so we should.
Yeah. So the only thing is you're paying those annual filing fees for the last 3 years, as opposed to just starting a brand new one and starting that with 520. Because every year you have to pay that annual fee.
I actually had a question. How long would we technically need to keep the LLC open to keep insulating us, or it doesn't matter?
So it doesn't. I mean, it depends. I mean, if you sell the project, you probably, would say imagine rule of thumb is probably like 12 months. You want to keep it open in case something happens. But the problem is that once you sell that project, you're going to take all that money out of that LLC.
Yeah.
And so there's really nothing there. So if there is some kind of issue, someone would have to pierce that LLC to go after, any additional assets, because there's nothing in that LLC. But usually most people will probably keep it open for at least a year after the project, just in case anything pops up. Definitely if you offer warranties. So if you offer a warranty, you want to keep that LLC up and running.
Now, I guess one of the questions, like some of the viewers here are looking at like land development deals and things such as that. Could you walk through like the process, the due diligence process, the timelines, things like that for like a land development deal? Like, what type of terms, what things to look for, contingencies, things like that?
So the due diligence is usually something that you would want to put into the offer or the letter of intent, depending on what you call it. You definitely want to have that in there, and it varies. 30 days is usually the minimum, although sometimes we'll see people that are less experienced offer 21 days because they want to try to entice the seller to agree to it. It's hard to get everything done in 21 days because by the time you get started, it takes a while. Usually 30 days is the minimum, and then 45 days is the norm. Sometimes depending on the project or the scope of it, you'll see more. But that, regardless, that period of time, that due diligence period, is when you're going to want to do as much as possible to make sure that this project makes sense for you financially, as well as just basically you can do what you want to do with it. And so with the due diligence, you want to do your environmental. And that's more important if you're getting financing, in the sense that there are certain things you have to do if you're getting financing. If you're not getting financing and it's a cash deal, you should do environmental. I'm not saying don't do it, but you don't necessarily have to go to the scope that a lender may make you go. So with environmental, we refer to it as a 21E. It's the code section, just like for septic systems, Title V, just code, if you will, 6D certificate for condos. Again, it's just it's slang that we use because we reference the law. So the 21E is an environmental study that you do, and there's different phases. And so you should always do at least a phase 1, which is a historical look at the property to see what it was used for in the past. Lenders, if they see that comes back with like a question mark, will order a phase 2, which is basically then start digging holes and start testing soil samples and stuff. If you're doing financing, you're most likely going to end up with a phase 2. If you're buying it yourself and you get the report and you feel comfortable that there wasn't anything on there, or in the history of it that could lead to anything, you may be okay with just doing the phase 1. But that's part of the due diligence period, is getting your environmentals. Then you also want to, depending on what you're going to do with the project. So are you talking like vacant land?
Vacant land, and also obviously if there's an existing structure, it depends what the existing structure is.
Yeah. So you want to do zoning is something you want to make sure. So for instance, you want to do zoning to make sure that you can do what you want to do on that property. If there's an existing structure, you want to see, what you can build on it, or if you've got to take it down and all this other stuff. But from our standpoint, a lot of it is the environmental title, running the title. Usually depending on the complexity of the transaction, sellers will say, you got to give us notice, 10 days or 20 days or 30 days before the closing if there's any title issues. So you want to run your title. So the environmental title, zoning, you research the taxes, research, all the kind of those things, if you will. And then again, the rest of it kind of comes down to what you're going to actually do with the project. So, if you're going to build multifamilies on there, you want to make sure that you can do it. You want to figure out what your setbacks are, all that stuff. If you have to put a septic system in, you got to figure all that stuff out. If it has a septic system, you got to figure that out as well. Access, plot plan may be enough, or to make sure everything's where it's supposed to be. Otherwise, you may have to do a survey.
I noticed it depends on who you get the money from too as well. Depending on your capital stack, if it's an institutional lender, then they actually want permits. They want it to be shovel ready, have permits in hand too as well.
Sometimes,
sometimes you need to have the variances done and all that stuff, which 45 days, there's no way you're going to get a variance in 45 days.
No, so you build the deal contingent on getting that stuff done and stuff like that. And that's important too, though, because you have to be upfront with your seller, because a lot of times the seller has to apply for those permits and then basically assign them over to you, or you're going to need their cooperation. And so you want to make sure that you kind of go in with your eyes wide open and know what you're going to expect. If you're dealing with a sophisticated seller, then it's okay. They're going to understand. They'll walk you through the project. Because most of the time when they're in a real estate transaction, everyone's trying to get to that goal, which is, selling the property or buying the property. There's no real incentive for the seller not to cooperate, and there's no real incentive for the buyer to drag their feet. But if you have one party that's kind of new to the deal or not necessarily sophisticated, they're not necessarily dragging their feet, but they're not going to do everything that they need to do, or know that they need to do certain things, or they don't want to spend the money to do it. So if for instance, you have to get your permits, you want to make sure that the seller understands that they have to cooperate. So you're going to go to the hearings and do all that stuff, but the seller has to sign off on everything, and basically their name has to be on stuff, and they just have to make sure they're okay with it. So,
unfortunately, I find that some of the most painful deals are the most profitable deals. So
some of the most painful deals are the most profitable.
Yeah, the hardest ones for me to get closed are the ones that are sometimes the most lucrative ones.
Oh, interesting.
Like if the seller is not particularly a very responsible person.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why we're able to get it at a deep discount.
So you're playing off of their ignorance. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, we've seen some weird things. Like I remember the one we went to close, and suddenly out of nowhere there was like $60,000 thing that showed up in the title the day before. Right before we were supposed to close, they had some sort of lien that showed up.
Oh, a lien, yeah.
Yeah. And we're like, whoa, what? Then of course, obviously, he had to pay the $60,000.
Yeah, you have to deduct it from.
But it's like, how do you not know you have $60,000 coming to you?
You'd be amazed.
I mean, like, did you owe somebody $60,000?
Well, it could be. So sometimes it's a tax lien that they haven't paid income taxes, and they just basically the federal government will throw a lien, or the Department of Revenue will throw a lien on the property, and they just ignore it. Could be, for a whole host of things. I mean, if you're dealing with like estates, for instance, sometimes like people will inherit property and they don't take care of the mortgage. That could be on there too.
What's wild is I talked to someone, and the IRS, if they have a tax lien on it, they can actually jump in, stop your sale.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they can stop your sale.
they
but
want
like
the proceeds.
and take the proceeds from it. But like they often you can get a waiver though. But like it depends really, from my understanding.
They want their money. They're going to want to get their money at the closing. So they'll let you close, but the settlement agent has to basically guarantee that they're going to get their money.
I was going to say, wouldn't they want you to get it sold so they can get their money?
Yeah. So basically, you can't sell it because of the lien. So you contact the IRS, you get basically a payoff statement, saying what the amount is that's owed, and then you just have to make arrangements to make sure that they get paid. They would prefer to get paid before you sell the property, but if the reason they're not paying their taxes is because they have no money, that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
If they're not paying their taxes because they're deadbeats, and they have the money, then they can, the IRS may be a little bit more say, hey, pay us first, then you can sell the property.
What do you think is like the weirdest?
Mechanics liens are another thing.
Oh yeah, I see some
pop
fun
up.
stuff with that.
Yeah, because sometimes people just don't even realize that they have a mechanics lien on the property because the contractor just got fed up and just said screw it and just filed, and they just pretend to ignore it, and that adds up after time really quick.
Actually, we actually had a situation one time where it wasn't us. We never run into that situation, but like we knew somebody who, no names, but we knew somebody who wasn't always the best at finishing his job. Right, there was a contractor.
Contractor.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
And so basically, unbeknownst to what happened was the owner had paid the GC.
Yeah.
And for the work that was done, and he was supposed to pay the sub. Well, he never paid the sub.
Yeah, happens a
So
lot.
the sub is like, it's been 3-4 months. I haven't got paid. What's going on? And the guy's like, oh, the owner hasn't paid me. He's an asshole. He hasn't paid me, blah, blah. But the reality, the owner already paid him for that work already. And so what happened was the guy was floating the money on other jobs.
Sure.
So then finally the guy was, he's like, I need to get paid. He went directly to the owner, and the owner found out. Then it was like, we know this is somebody that we know. And so, but like the owner found out that he wasn't paying his sub then. And so, like, that could have been a mechanics lien right there. If the guy didn't go to the owner, he could have just slapped the mechanics lien right
Slap
on
the
there.
mechanics lien, and then the owner has to kind of figure it all out, or hopefully we'll address it. But sometimes they do ignore it, to be honest.
Oh,
with you.
and then there was the other one we looked at. It was in West Roxbury. No names again, but there was the person who went in and did like really shabby work, right? And they had all these open permits, right? And it was insurance work, right? And God, the workmanship was crazy. Like they had a bathroom where they basically just put plastic on it, and it was not waterproofed at all. There was no cement board. There was no waterproofing, no nothing. And like, it was literally just plastic. Like,
So behind the wall was plastic.
no, it was taped to the wall. Like, it was literally
wow.
like it was duct taped to the wall, plastic. That's quality of workmanship. So, and he came back and he put a mechanics lien and took her to court. And like, from my understanding, like a mechanics lien on there's actually like it's like 12% or something.
Yeah.
It's pretty heavy.
pretty steep.
Yeah, it's like 12% or something like that. And they've been going back in court like for like 5-6 years or something like that. So when you think about that, like that's like it's like 72% now of what the original balance was.
Yeah, but my guess is
You know?
that the owner is going to be saying, look, you didn't do the work. I mean, if you put duct tape up on the wall, my guess is that the lender's going to say,
I don't think they even had any kind of contract or anything. I think it was all word of mouth.
All word of
Oh,
mouth.
wow.
That's the
Like,
problem.
so there was no like description or scope of what exactly he was supposed to do.
So one of my first cases when I came out of law school, because when you come out of law school, you'll take anything. You basically got to pay your bills and stuff. And I got married right out of law school, so I had to pay a lot of bills. And I had this one client that contacted me, and he hired a contractor that basically would walking around the street and just basically gave him, quoted him a job to do some renovations on his bathrooms. And they dropped this whole second floor. They took out support columns and dropped it.
What?
Yeah, they did about 200. This is back now. We're going back almost
Whoa.
30 years. This was $200,000 worth of damage. And they didn't use a contractor that was licensed, and so they couldn't get into the contractor fund. Yeah.
I've seen all like
Yeah.
I remember the house in Somerville. Somebody ran like 10 by 6 inch ductwork through every single joist inside of the basement of that house.
Oh, wow.
Like the whole floor was completely unsupported.
Oh, wow.
I think my favorite one was I saw.
That's a lot of work, too, to do that.
That's a lot of work to cut through all that stuff and put that up there. I was surprised that it didn't fall.
I know, but I'm just thinking, like, that's a lot of effort that someone put in to mess that job up.
We looked at?
No, that was for a client that we went to go do some stuff for them.
I was going to say, like, I don't remember seeing something that bad.
Yeah, no, that wasn't the client in Somerville. You referred them to us, actually.
So I got another. I saw another one. I think it was. I feel like some people just don't have common sense, right?
Oh, God, yeah.
What they did was they put a bathroom in the center of the home, which is, I mean, people do that sometimes, right? As long as it vents out or whatever. First of all, there's no vent.
Okay.
So first of all, like having a bathroom and no vent in the middle of your house, that's kind of a terrible idea. First of all, right? So there's no
A
vent.
lot of humidity to trap in the middle of your house, too.
Yeah, but like, where does the smell go? You know, like so. Anyhow, like it was in the middle of the house, but in the middle of the house was a beam. And it was like it was an older home, so it was one of those 12 by 12 beams, like big fat beam. They cut the beam to run the plumbing through it. Now you would think that something that big, you don't cut it because it's probably holding something up. So they cut it, and then they realized, oh, we shouldn't cut this. So what they did was they actually put a lolly column.
Oh,
okay.
no.
Now
in the bathroom?
Underneath the main beam.
Underneath the main
Right?
beam,
On
in the
two
basement.
Yep.
Okay.
Underneath one side of the main beam.
Yeah.
Right? And they, for whatever reason, they cut the lolly column a little short.
So it wasn't doing anything.
Yeah, so what they did was they took ceramic tile and put it on the bottom. So the entire building was sitting on a post with 4 tiles on top of each other. And the tiles are obviously shattered.
Of course.
And I walked into the place and the house is kind of like going like this. And I'm like, I walked out and I was like, why would you just tuck a ceramic underneath this? It's not really designed to carry any weight.
No.
Right?
Jeez.
So there was that. And then on top of it, he had what was it? The actual bathroom. There were electric lines around the whole shower. So if something would have happened and water would have went through that wall, there's just electric wires in your tub.
I mean, I don't know how it is in Vietnam, but in Brazil, like you literally get electrocuted every time you take a shower. There's no hot water heaters. I mean, they might be now. Back when I was younger, so the heat, the shower head actually heated the water. So there was live wires coming into the shower head, and sometimes it wouldn't work properly, so you had to go in there and mess around with it.
So wait a minute. So they heated the shower head with a live wire.
Yep.
To allow, so when the water came through, it would heat up and
It would
come
heat.
through. I mean, in a way, that's brilliant. Let's be honest.
It's on demand.
is.
It's on
Except-
demand.
It's on
Except
demand
for the-
at the shower head, except for the exposed wiring
I was just
most of
going
the
to say,
times.
had they actually done it correctly,
That's genius.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's pretty good.
But 90% of the time, you went to go turn it on or make it work, and every single time.
Actually, Vietnam does have those. Not as prevalent now, but they do have the ones. But it's like a box, and it's like
That's different. That's fantastic. But this was the actual shower head, and every single time every time you almost expected it. You're like, do I want a hot shower? Do I want a cold shower?
yeah.
I don't know if they have
That's
this
the
in-
worst, actually, is when you're expecting something to be bad.
Yeah.
Like, like taking a cold shower is okay. Like, if you have to do it, you do it. But if you have to wake up and you're going to take a cold shower, it's like psychological thing of like
having to decide between a shock or a cold shower.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing that gets you. It's that mind trick that you play on yourself.
Yep.
Like, speaking of shocking, what do you think is the craziest real estate story or deal or anything that you've ever seen? Like the craziest
one that
like,
I've ever seen?
The worst one or the craziest like real estate deal you've ever seen?
Dumpster fire.
Yeah.
We have a dumpster fire segment on this podcast.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a dumpster fire. The one that comes to mind, I was telling you before we got started, that house that was going to close. So we had, so I've got two kind of like, they're both similar stories. That one's the worst, so I'll go with that one. But so we were doing a closing again, young attorney doing a closing and stuff. Actually, the property was in Saugus. Or Peabody, actually, maybe it was Peabody. But in any event, so the clients, I'm representing the buyers, they go and do the walkthrough and they go and just make sure that the house is empty, and they go up to the attic and they get completely spooked. And so they don't want to go forward with the closing anymore.
This is like the final walkthrough. They got spooked in the attic?
They went through the attic and they got spooked. And so we're going back and forth and everything. And so they're like, you have to go, I have to go and see what's going on up there. And so I'm kind of like, that's not what I do. But the sellers had already moved out and were out of state. The attorney for the seller was just basically phoning it in. And this was back in the day when everyone showed up at the closing table. So the seller's attorney was at the table ready to close. I'm at the table waiting to close. We're waiting for the buyers to come. They don't come. They call and say, we're not coming. We're not buying this property. And now we're arguing over the deposit. So basically they want everyone to go. And so one of the realtors is basically saying, I'm not going up there again. I'm not going up there again. And so I'm like, what's going on here? And then the other realtor's like, we'll just get it cleaned. We'll give you a credit and stuff like that. So long story short, I'm at the property. My office at the time was in Wakefield, so it wasn't that far away. So go in and up in the attic. And to this day, I can't say whether or not it was blood or red paint, but someone up in the attic had literally like done like SWAT sticker in red paint or blood and just like a whole bunch of like satanic stuff up there. And so I walk in.
Don't buy me at this house.
Yeah.
Wait,
so
was it always there?
No, because that's the thing. So they did do an inspection. And so they didn't go up in the attic, but the inspector went up and didn't say anything. And so they presume that the inspector would have said, hey, by the way, you got a problem up here.
Satanic rituals going on upstairs.
Right? And so I walk up, and again, I didn't spend that much time up there to look. I can't say if it was paint or blood or what, but it was creepy. And so it was just one of those deals that just fell apart.
They lost the deposit just walking away?
No, they got their deposit back.
Oh, wow,
yeah,
really?
Because we argued over the deposit. I'm not going to say they gave it away, they gave it back right away, but we argued over it, and eventually the sellers were just like, they just wanted to be done with and basically they gave them back their deposit and stuff. It took probably about sometimes those deposit fights can take about 10 days or so to get cleared up.
The seller's agent on that side was inexperienced too, because if it was him selling the house for those people, the first thing he would have called me and like, you got to paint this attic and get rid of all this shit. You got to make it not look like this.
Yeah.
This is not going to sell.
We have no idea. I mean, we know, the sellers had moved out, so they got their stuff out probably a couple of weeks before the closing. The buyers had gone in a couple of times to take measurements and stuff. Everyone was fine. The realtors were fine. It was literally when they decided to go up in the attic to make sure that all this stuff had been taken out.
Yeah.
Because they just wanted to kind of, the whole phrase broom clean. So basically you go in and you just make sure all the debris is out. And that's when they walked in and they saw that and they were just like, no.
How did the seller not know that? Because they lived there. So
the sellers claimed that someone must have broke into the house and done it as vandalism.
Oh.
That's their claim because they had moved out about 2 weeks or so ago. Or prior, rather.
It could happen.
So that's what they were claiming, is that someone must have broke in and done it. I don't know.
Interesting.
The sellers claim that they, the doors were locked.
Are not all agents as anal as you, apparently?
There's definitely a wide range of, how picky people are.
Because when he gets a new customer, he goes through the entire house, and then I get a call, probably one of the first calls, like, hey, do you have time in the schedule? Because I can't sell this house like this. We got to do this, this, and this. And
repairs, actual repairs?
Yeah.
Wow.
I do a lot of prep because it makes a huge difference.
But not staging. You actually go in and fix things.
It depends on what it is.
Okay.
It's usually cosmetic.
Okay.
But if it's something that's going to like raise alarm, you know what I mean? Like, we should just take care of it. Because that kills deals.
Yeah. There's things that are minor, but like when people see it, it raises alarms. And you don't like even...
And then start looking at all the other stuff.
Our job sites are always impeccably clean because
that's huge.
A customer walks in and they see, this fucking war zone. They're immediately going to think this guy's a slob. These people's work, their work is sloppy, and I can expect sloppy work. Inspections as well. Every time an inspector's coming, I tell them, clean again. Make sure joist bays, everything is clean, because the first impression matters. So you walk in, you see a cracked window, you see cracked tile or something like that. The first impression matters.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. From being a consumer, I can attest to that.
Yeah, they see like one thing, and then they basically think everything else is wrong.
It puts their mindset into the thing, like what else is wrong, and they start looking for stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like once you open Pandora's box, it's hard to kind of reverse that.
Yeah, you lose the trust right from the get go.
Yeah, I mean, like it's typically like something as simple as like touch up paint. You know what I mean? Like, or like, fixing a hole in the wall, something like that. Yeah. We do staging too as well. I mean, the staging is huge. I think staging helps a lot.
Again, when I was a young lawyer, because you just have to hustle in order to make a living, there was a realtor that I ran into. He was an old timer then, and he carried a briefcase. And he, eventually we became friendly, and he was telling me that in his briefcase, he literally had a roll of duct tape and smoke detectors. And so his biggest thing was making sure that they would pass the fire inspection. And so he would go into the house before the fire inspector went in and put smoke detectors around the property with duct tape.
Yeah.
Duct tape?
Duct tape to the...
He doesn't duct tape it, but he has tools and...
I have a box
You actually install them.
I have a box of smoke detectors just in case.
To pass the to get the certificate, because basically the fire department would come in with the stick and just test the smoke detectors. These were before...
Oh, you duct tape it and then take it down again?
Take it down afterwards.
Oh yeah, I don't do that. I actually screw it in.
Yeah, no, these got this guy.
He actually installs...
Some of them will pop it off.
Yeah. And then he used to tell me how he used to manipulate the radon test. I was horrified by this guy. This guy was like, he would just tell me stuff that, like, it was like just like stuff that he did.
He opened up the window during the testing.
He would turn on the lights. So apparently so the old radon canisters, you used to basically open up a canister, leave it in a dark place, and then come back like 3 days later, seal it, and then mail it off, and then you'd get your results. This again is going back a ways. And so apparently what he would do afterwards, after they put the canisters there, he'd come in and turn on the lights. And sometimes he'd reseal the canister and then come back just beforehand and and open up the canister, and then he would manipulate the test results. And he was proud of these stories. I'm telling you, it was
that's crazy.
I'd done a couple transactions with him. He was never like he was never the attorney. He was never referring the clients to me. It was just he was an old time attorney in the Boston area. I'm sorry, an old time realtor in the Boston area, and so he would pop up on transactions and stuff. And you know, you're sitting at the closing table, everyone's left, and he's, you know, just starts talking and stuff.
It's that kind of behavior that endorses the stereotype of...
Yeah, I was like horrified by this guy. He's like, yeah, I can manipulate any radon test. I've never had a radon test fail since 1970 something. I was like, holy crap. Probably like the 80s, to be honest with you. But in any event, but yeah, he would do that.
Wow, that's
John's
wild.
like, holy crap, I don't want to know this.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't tell me.
I wouldn't have even thought of it.
Stop talking.
I wouldn't have never...
Well, he opened up his briefcase to show me what was in it. And it was a roll of duct tape, and it was a
smoke detector.
Smoke detectors.
With duct tape?
Yeah, he put a piece of duct tape, stick it to the wall.
I mean, like...
That's crazy.
I actually hire a company that does nothing but smoke detectors.
Oh, really?
Because they always get it right. And so
they
like
come in, they know where they're supposed to be.
And like what they are is they're retired typically, like chief of fire police, like a fire chief that's retired.
The inspectors. Yeah.
So they know the regulations, and sometimes they can help you kind of like make sure that it's on a timely fashion because they happen to know someone.
They know someone over there.
So it's more timely, so to speak.
Yeah.
But like there have been weird
What's the fee
ones
for something like that?
It's not that much actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I can send you the info, but I think it's worth it if it's a more complicated situation.
Yeah.
Like if it's just a condo that's like built a couple years ago, it's not really worth it. I don't do it for that because you just look at the smoke detector, you know.
Yeah.
But like if it's something that's like, you know, like half of it's renovated and like it has a weird layout, and then like some of it's
hardwired. You have a tight
hardwired.
closing window.
You know?
You want to make sure you get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Because like once you fail that, you might not get another guy out there like 2 weeks.
Oh, absolutely.
And that killed the deal.
Yeah,
so yeah, if it's like closing window, exactly. I do that the same thing too.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, but like he's licensed electrician, but he does this. This is like what he does. And so
It's not a bad way to make a living.
yeah, it's very reasonable pricing too as well.
That's what I was wondering, because I would imagine that it's kind of like a niche little business and charging whatever he wants.
So I think he gets the smoke detectors in mass. So he buys them at bulk rate too as well, and he charges by the smoke detector.
Speaking of buying smoke detectors, did you know that you can buy smoke detectors in Massachusetts that are not allowed to be used in Massachusetts?
Yeah,
Oh, how's that possible?
Like Home Depot and
the 10 year,
Lowe's,
they're not 10 years sealed.
They're not 10 years sealed. They don't have a voice alert and stuff. Like you can buy smoke detectors that are not code compliant.
Yep.
And people have freaking
all the
idea.
time.
I wouldn't know that, to be honest with you. I would imagine if it was sold in Massachusetts that I could.
Nope.
You'd think so, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Fixtures as well. They sell fixtures that are not listed on the UL or plumbing, the plumbing like registration, so that you can't install it. We actually had one of our contractors buy a plumbing fixture at Lowe's, and the inspector was like, "You got to take that out. It's not on the website, so it can't be installed in here."
What was it? What kind of fixture?
It was a name brand Lowe's thing.
But like a sink, or
it was a shower valve.
Oh wow!
Oh, it was a mixer valve?
It was a mixer valve, yeah.
Huh.
And he said it's got to go. It's not listed, so I have no idea where it's from.
Wow.
Which is why a lot of the times people are buying stuff off of Amazon, Temu, Alibaba, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And they're putting in walls, and they end up failing inspections. One of our plumbers told me that he allowed, because we generally recommend go with the big brands, go with Kohler, Delta, especially because you're going to want to have service or be able to repair. So those names have been around. You can find parts for it. And it's easier to deal with, mowing and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Plus, we don't want callbacks after we flip a house.
Yeah, we don't want somebody's faucet blowing up in their face in like 3 months because it's made of cheap plastic.
It's some sort of Chinese brand that like was $2.
I didn't even know that, to be honest with you. That's funny. I guess it makes sense. I wouldn't even thought of it though. Yeah, because people do buy a bunch of stuff from Amazon.
It's crazy because they'll have like these like $1.5, $2 million homes, and they're buying these things off of Amazon. And then the inspector went in there. One of our plumbers said it. The inspector went in. He was like, "You got to get all these valves, all these things out of here because I don't know. It's not listed anywhere. I have no idea where it's from. So everything's got to go." And they had to take off all the shower valves, all the faucets, everything.
I've seen that for electrical because it has to be UL rated, so it's like approved to be to be safe. I didn't really plumbing they had something similar.
As a general rule of thumb, if it has the company's name on it, you're good to go with it because if they're putting their name on it, they care about it. If you buy something that's in a box with no brand, the fixture has no brand, they don't want you to find them. They don't want you to come looking for stuff. So go with a brand. Go with something that has the brand on it. That's usually how it...
Learn something new. In all honesty, I would have... I don't know. I don't know that I would have been smart enough to figure it out, to be honest with you. I probably would have looked on Amazon, found something, and been like, "Oh, that's great. That's $30. The other one's $50. And I go with $30. Never would have thought.
Usually what happens. Yeah. We just had one of our clients, one of our property owners, so they bought the tub. It's a good tub, but the fixture that came with it was like an add-on. And when the plumbers put it in, they could not get it to stop leaking no matter what they did. And turns out it was actually a bit of a cheaper one that they added on with the tub. Like the company that sells the tub just bought it. It's like a tack on price or whatever the hell it is. Mm-hmm. And those fixtures for a fill tub is like $2,500, $3,000. And this one costs like $500 or $600.
Wow.
So, and obviously the owners had no idea. Most people, like you said, they had no idea. They were like, ignorant. "Oh, nice. We're going to have the tub comes with a fill valve. Great."
Yeah.
Come to find, the plumbers could not. They took it off, put Teflon tape, tried to get it to work. They took apart the valve. They could not get it to stop leaking. So the tub's in there, and there's no fill valve now.
Teflon tape didn't fix it either?
It was leaking from inside of the valve itself.
Oh, the valve itself is leaking?
Yeah, like the inside of it.
Then. Yeah. You have to have a machine shop to fix that.
Good luck finding the people that made it to give you some spare parts or something.
So what?
Young, you would have just kept wrapping Teflon tape on it, wouldn't you?
No. I would have.
Teflon tape didn't fix it.
I would have realized it's coming from the valve. No, be like, "Oh, we're screwed."
It's just the way you said it. Like you've always fixed everything with Teflon tape, like
duct tape. No, just kidding. Exactly. Oh, there was one property we looked at. Literally everything had duct tape.
Really?
I forgot which one. Which one did we work on? Like literally, the plumbing was duct tape.
Oh wow.
The electrical wires were duct tape. Like, which one was that? There was something we worked on. And literally, like, there were like 10 places in the home where everything was, it's a property we manage.
Yeah, we're not going to say which one. We're not going to
say which one it is.
Duct tape all over the place.
But literally, it was an apartment building, and literally, it was like
the tenants did it, or did the owner?
No, I think the previous owner just went wild with duct tape. Like
we hate that property.
Tile was duct taped, electrical was duct taped, plumbing was duct taped, the sewer line was duct taped. That one really got me. The sewer line, like, dude, like.
But we find that stuff all the time. I find wiring in wall, like live wires, just chilling inside of walls that people will just cut and just throw it in there and just close up the wall.
And they don't even think about it, like.
Oh, we've seen that a bunch of times.
Put a cap on it or something, or tape.
Definitely seen it a couple times. Actually, a bunch of times.
See it all the time. Like we open walls and.
You think that would be common sense? Like you're going to start a fire and you're going to die in your sleep. Knock yourselves out.
I think my biggest pet peeve, and Leo knows this, is I hate when people like cut structural stuff. It's like so annoying to me. Like when it's like that big, it's kind of like, why would you cut something that big? And we see that a lot. Like it's kind of scary actually how often we see that.
I'm surprised. Well, just the stories you guys were telling, like the cutting through the support beams and the joists for ductwork. I'm like,
yeah, and it's not strictly not allowed by code to put holes or cut beams and notch, but there's specific places where you can do. But if you're taking 90% of the beam off,
exactly.
There's no way that's going to work out for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in your business or your line of work, and even I know that doesn't.
That's not smart.
You're affecting the structural integrity of that beam.
The weirdest fix, which actually did work. The weirdest fix I've ever seen was it was an apartment in Brookline, right, where the door swung into the bathroom, but the toilet's right in front of the door. So instead of taking the door off and making it swing in the hallway, they're like, "Oh, well, we're just going to go and cut a shape like the toilet in the door." So there's this V thing that kind of and you swing and it goes past the toilet. So like when you walk in down through the hallway, there's like a gaping hole in the door that's in the shape of a toilet, right? So you can like see someone in their glory.
I've actually seen.
I was like, that has to be as much work as just switching the door.
Yeah, absolutely, it has.
It literally was like this.
It's amazing how
I've seen the exact same scenario, but they put a hinge on the V part so that when you open it, it actually folds back and goes past the toilet. And then
really? Oh wow, that's
creative as all fuck. That's a better solution, but still, just turn the freaking door around.
I was just gonna say that actually took a lot more brain matter than.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't see the hinge would, but like, at least you don't.
At least they tried.
Yeah, at least they tried there, you know.
So they're just done a farmer's door, right? Is that what they call those? The sliding doors, yeah.
Which is like the easiest thing to install.
Yeah, I've seen
so
videos
easy
on it.
You know,
so we've actually thought about putting the farm. Is it a barn house?
Oh,
a barn door, right?
Yep.
So the reason we don't is because when people go into the bathroom, that doesn't close properly. So like you're gonna get the smells and stuff coming out. But we do put pocket doors all the time. Those will actually give you a somewhat decent seal.
What's a pocket door?
So it slides into the wall.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
But we considered it on a project recently, putting a barn door, and we're like, there's no way we're going to get that to actually get a good seal. And even if it does, the way Massachusetts weather is and these house shifts, it's at some point it's not going to like have that decent seal.
Gotcha.
You know, one of the things I'm seeing, like, I was reading articles about the rush with ADUs now. Are you seeing in your office? Are you seeing a lot of ADUs coming through at all?
Not a lot. People are talking about it, though. It's starting to be something. There was a lot of push with the towns to kind of get approval and stuff. So we're going to start seeing more and more of it. But no, not a lot just yet. So
like my understanding is like, you know, it has to be less than 900 feet. And, you know, but one of the things they eliminated for single family homes, they used to require parking. Now they can't require parking now.
Yeah, they've done a lot of things with the regulations to kind of make them more basically to allow them to be used. Because a lot of the properties, like you said, wouldn't qualify otherwise.
And like
it's kind of almost like the old-fashioned in-law apartments that they allowed for a while.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think it's good for housing because honestly, like the supply is the issue. Like,
absolutely,
if we have a huge problem with like supply and demand, and like if we have places for people to live, then naturally the prices are going to go down because there's competition in the market space.
It's also a lot of it is the regulations surrounding it.
Oh yeah,
That's
I mean
the
like
thing. So if you do away with some of these if you allow these ADUs, and like you were saying, like eliminating the parking, you know, if the people are okay with the fact that, you know, maybe the person that's going to live in the ADU doesn't need a car. You know, or they're going to just rely on their kids or whoever, you know,
or you can park on the street.
Or park in the street or something like other people do. I mean, then why say no, you can't because you have to have parking? You know, it's like, so doing away with a lot of those regulations will help too.
You know, I sat down with a town about an ADU, and they were going to let us do an ADU in the basement of this particular property. And what's kind of, I think the main thing that's really nice about an ADU is that you only have to build that new unit up to today's standards, today's code, right? Whereas in the past, if you wanted to have that third unit, you had to go through and you had to bring the entire building up to code.
Oh, good point.
So like that triggered, like if you went from like a 2 to 3 in certain municipalities, now you have to put a sprinkler system in all three units, and you have to
hardwire smoke detectors, all new
plumbing, electrical potentially too as well, depending on what's in the walls. There was like, and then you had to reinsulate a bunch of stuff because now the walls are open. So it was almost like you had to gut it in order to add one unit, the other 2 units.
And then you end up going, some counties and cities, you end up going into 50% of the whole building structure is open and you're messing around with it. So now you got to bring it up to the energy codes, and then, you know, it just continues going from there.
And then the energy code they changed a couple of years ago. Now you got to reframe the exterior walls, or you have to get a HERS rating, depending on what type of system you're in.
Yeah, usually people end up, if you have 2x4 walls and you can't fit the amount of insulation, you end up putting continuous insulation on the outside, along with the spray foam on the inside to meet it.
Okay, so it's probably a lot easier than the framing and everything then.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a project one time where we had to frame a bunch of the walls. But at least the walls were already open.
We learned a very good lesson in one of our projects.
So what did you have to do?
So we didn't want to reside the whole house. The exterior of the house was in great condition. We didn't want to have to work on the exterior. So we ended up, all of the exterior walls, we beefed it up. They were 2x4 walls, so we beefed it up to 2x6 so that we can insulate enough to meet the energy codes.
Oh, wow.
So we just ripped a bunch of 2x4s and put them right on top of it.
Oh, there's a bunch of interesting ones. Some municipalities require you to have 400 amps now. Some of them require you to make it solar ready. Some of them require
solar ready.
Yeah, solar ready. Electric EV ready.
Yeah,
too,
they have to be EV ready as well.
But the interesting thing is, these are like it's funny, I think, because there should really be options and not mandates, because not everyone has EV car, not everyone's going to go solar. But it's like an acquirement, unfortunately, for some of these.
Oh, wow.
Some of these,
especially if everybody like.
And that's why things cost so much.
The grid can't handle. Imagine if everybody had. I think even if like 20 or 30% of Massachusetts had electric vehicles or anything that required too much electricity, but especially electric vehicles to charge the vehicles, the grid wouldn't handle it.
Exactly.
Like look at this past winter. We couldn't like all the electricity that was needed.
Yeah, I've seen those studies. I know exactly what you're referring to. Yeah, it's like it's a great concept, but we're not there yet to be able to support it. Yep.
We end up having to turn back to the dinosaurs to get it to heat up again.
Hey, so do you think do you think that there's any sort of major changes in the market at all? Like, no, because you get to see the transactions at the desk, at the very end. Are you seeing anything that's like changing in the market or anything that's
we're
that's
actually
different?
Lawyers are usually at the back end, to be honest with you. You're on the front lines.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see like market shifts and market things. No, I mean
Do you see people backing out of deals?
No,
things like that.
We're seeing. So what we're seeing now is. So it used to be. So we see like the shifts. It used to be a buyer's market for the longest time. It was a buyer's market.
Yeah.
And so basically, you had more buyers than you had sellers, and so sellers would give up whatever they had to in order to accommodate the buyers. Then it shifted, and it became a seller's market, and so buyers would just take it and deal with it. Cutting out inspections, cutting out mortgage contingencies, all of that stuff. You've lived through it. You've seen it.
Yep.
So that's the stuff that we'll see and stuff like that. Now it seems to be a little bit more balanced. It seems to be where sellers still want to sell and buyers still want to buy, but it seems like almost like when we're negotiating or working on stuff that sellers are like, yeah, no, I'm okay. I'm not going to give on that. Or, buyers are like, you know what? I really do want that. And so we see that kind of like, in the haggling and stuff like that. Not so we don't deal with the price. You guys do that, but we deal with like certain like contingencies or other things that pop up, and we're starting to see like it seems to be it's almost kind of like everyone's on equal footing, where either again the sellers. I don't know what the inventories are like out there, to be honest with you, but it seems like there's enough properties out there where buyers feel like, well, if I don't get this one, I'll get another one, and sellers are almost kind of like, well, I'll just wait and get another buyer. So they're not like before. We see it a lot with, like, for instance, like inspection contingencies. So all of a sudden they'll do an inspection and they'll come back and the seller will be like, I want 40,000 off, and the seller's like, I'm sorry, the buyer will be like, I want 40,000 off, and the seller's going to be like, no, I'm not giving you 40,000, I'll give you 10. You know what I mean? Where in the past the seller would be like, we gotta, we don't want to lose this buyer, do what you can. And then in other instances where the buyers would be like, we can't, no, it doesn't matter. We're just taking the property, it doesn't matter.
Which is crazy because for a long time it was almost expected that you would waive inspection to be able to buy the house.
Oh,
yeah.
It was for like years. It was
like if you didn't waive it, you weren't a contender to buy the house.
You weren't a contender. Waiving that, what people were first time buyers were waiving their mortgage contingencies, and then they were freaking out and trying to get everything squared away. And that depends. I mean, a lot of that stuff, especially for first time buyers, that's one of the things that we thankfully have seen less and less of. So a lot of these people were using all these online mortgage companies that don't do transactions in Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a disaster.
It's a disaster.
Because they don't understand the market here. They don't understand how everything's done. And then they're not accountable, kind of almost to what you said. If there's not a name on the box, there's a lot of things with these mortgage companies. So we started seeing like everyone was using local, which was great. And then, the banks started getting a little bit too conservative and you had mortgage brokers pop in and stuff. And then we started seeing all these internet companies just like come in and people were using them, and those were torture to get deals done. And people did lose their deposits and stuff because their mortgage lenders just disappeared. Not that they folded, they became unresponsive. I mean, we had some that would tell us like, we're closing, at the end of the month, and they're like, yeah, we're not going to be ready. And it's like, we're closing at the end of the month. It's like, what do you mean you're not going to be ready? Yeah, we have too many transactions. See if you can move it out a week. I'm like, no, we can't move it out a week. It's like, we got to close at the end of the month. They're going to lose their deposit. We got deals,
I get that with the big banks. They do that to you a lot.
Which big banks? Like,
well, I don't want to say which ones, but like
the national banks?
Yeah, some of the national ones.
The national banks, yeah, it depends on. So from our standpoint, we deal with the back office, and it depends. So the national ones, okay, so
the big ones,
yeah.
Some of them have too much red tape.
Yeah, it depends also on who you get. So like, for instance, if you get someone who works kind of like in the Midwest, they're clueless. They're going to ask you for stuff that just drives you absolutely crazy. If you get someone who works in like the New England area, then they may be a little bit more savvy and understand how we do things here.
Yep.
But yeah, it depends on who you get in the bigger banks. So it depends on, who you're connected with and stuff. We had, there's one transaction that you and I are working on, which is a national lender. And they started asking like, we need all this stuff from the condo. And they reached out to me and I'm like, hey, look, I represent, one of the parties. I don't represent the condo association. And trying to explain to them that I don't represent the condo association was like, they didn't understand. They're like, well, can't you just send it over? And I'm like, where am I going to get it? I'm like, I got to connect with the condo association to get this stuff. I don't have it in the file. Like, we don't pull all this stuff. And so it was fine once you have a conversation with them. But try going back and forth with emails trying to explain things to people.
What do you think is the weirdest contingency you've ever seen? Then?
Weirdest contingency?
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing someone had to have in the PNS. Like, the weirdest one, you think?
It's not. I don't know if I've ever seen like a weird contingency, because usually they're. I mean, sometimes you'll get like that they want to be able to like put a roof deck on or do something like that. You get those things. The weirdest provision that I've ever had in a purchase and sale agreement was like someone was adamant about taking all of the fixtures, the lighting fixtures and stuff, like when they sold the property.
They want to take all the fixtures out of the house?
All the fixtures
all
out
the
of
lighting
the
fixtures?
All the lighting fixtures out of the house. And it was like,
weird.
what are you going to put in place? And they're like, nothing. And that's like, no. You can't leave
So
nothing.
you come in and there's no lights?
There's no lights. So that was something that was odd.
So you walk into a nice large electrician's bill to add fixtures everywhere.
I was like, they wanted all their fixtures. And like, we spent a lot of time picking out these fixtures. I'm like, that's great. I said, but
you
now
gotta
you're
put
going to
something
spend
back.
time picking out other fixtures because you can't leave it. You can't just leave wires dangling from the thing. And, and so, because some people, it doesn't happen anymore, but it used to be that chandeliers were something that families cherished and they would be passed down. And so people would say, no, the chandelier is coming.
I can understand like a chandelier, but not every light fixture in the
But
house.
even if you took a chandelier, you had to put something in its place. You couldn't just leave wires hanging and stuff like that. So it's not like it's a new concept. But that was the oddest provision that I had, was someone wanted all of the fixtures. And when I mean all of the fixtures, and convincing them that they had to put something in place. And they eventually did. They did, put stuff in place and stuff. But it was, that was an odd one. That one took a week just on that one provision. They were adamant. They were like, no, we spent a ton of time.
It's funny
picking
that you mentioned chandeliers too, because we're actually doing a project at Newton, and we're going to put in a chandelier that used to belong to her aunt.
See?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. That's how it used to be. Chandeliers used to be passed down, and it was one of those things. So you understood when people were like, no, we're taking the chandelier. I haven't seen that in probably like 20 years, but it used to be very, very, very common that people wanted their chandeliers.
It never made it to PNS, but I had somebody one time, a seller, tell me that they wanted, they wanted to have a provision that his nephew could stay in the basement.
I remember that one.
Yeah, his nephew could sleep in the basement for like 2 months after closing. Yeah. And I'm like, no, you can't have a guy sleeping in the basement for 2 months. I was like, first of all, there's no toilet, no kitchen. It's literally like a bare basement.
Yeah, no.
But he wanted to have his son, his nephew live in the basement in
I remember. I don't know
in a
if I was
storage
involved in
closet.
that
I was like,
transaction,
what?
But I remember hearing that story. Yeah.
I was like, no, that definitely can't work. No, we can't do that. No, But it's like, if the guy, what happens if he doesn't want to leave?
Well, then you're stuck with him because he basically has squatter's rights, and then you have to go through court to get him out for trespassing and stuff.
Exactly.
It's a fight and a half.
And I'm sorry, but like,
I used to do landlord-tenant law, and that was a bizarre. That's a bizarre.
I don't even. That's like a whole nother episode. Yeah, I've seen some
I'm just saying,
horror
like trying to
stories of
get
that.
people out that don't want to leave.
Yeah.
It's not just
Oh yeah, we've been part of
deal with it all the
evictions.
time. We manage plenty of properties. It's
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's definitely
crazy how entitled people are. Like, haven't paid rent in months, and
they don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah.
And then they act like they're the victim. Like,
I had one transaction where I had the perfect client because he's just got fed up, and he's like, just do whatever you got to do. And so we were dealing with a tenant that wanted cash for keys. So basically, cash for keys used to be how you used to get tenants out. You'd buy them out of their unit, and they lawyered up with one of the public assistance programs. And these are young attorneys. just basically
earning their
looking for
bones, basically.
Yeah, they're looking for experience. So they're throwing everything in the kitchen sink at you. You got to do interrogatories. You got to do this and that for, all this stuff. I mean, it was just delay after delay after delay after delay. And so, we just kept taking it on the chin. And then finally, had a conversation with the attorney, and we did the whole, we're going to give you $3,000 to get out. And she's like, well, I have to talk to my client and everything. And I'm like, okay, but this offer is not going to be here in 24 hours, so you have to figure it out and, get a hold of your client stuff. So did the thing. She took 2 days to get back to me. And she's like, my client will take wants $3,500. I said, $3,500? I said, we're not even offering $3,000 anymore. I said, that was 2 days ago, and we're down to $2,500. She's like, you can't do that. I said, we just did. I said, so now you have 24 hours to accept $2,500, or you're not even going to get that. So do the whole thing. She takes again 3 days to get back to me. And she's like, we'll take the $3,000. I said, no, we're down to $2,000. I said, do you see how the trend is working here? And stuff. And we got her out for $2,000. So it worked out. The client was thrilled.
We've actually had cash for keys twice on our flips, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I would say twice.
It was Drake and Lynn.
Yeah, it was twice.
Cash for keys is not a big thing anymore, but it used to be. It used to be the way that you'd get them out.
So
I actually held up at one time. I was representing the tenant, and I held up one of the largest projects in the North End at the time, because I had a tenant that wasn't willing to move out, and basically I represented a lot of landlords, and so I was privy to all these strategies and stuff. And so I was working for a firm in Boston, and she was a friend of one of the bigger clients that we had. And so I got the case, and they're like, she doesn't want to move out for 9 months. She has no place to go and everything. And so I just got to drag my heels for 9 months. And it was just, I was holding up this deal. They were throwing obscene things at us to get us out of there, but she had no place to go. Eventually what they ended up doing was renting her an apartment. So they paid to rent her an apartment just to get her out and stuff. So yeah, so if the tenant doesn't want to leave, it's hard to get them out.
Especially in Massachusetts.
So your guy that wanted to live in the basement, if he didn't want to leave, guess who's staying?
We were like, we're not buying this. If the guy's going to be staying in the basement, we're not going to buy this,
You're not getting him out.
No.
You better change all those locks as soon as it goes on record.
We changed every lock, literally,
absolutely.
as soon as it went on record. The funny thing is, they showed up, and I was like, and I asked the guy for the keys, and he's like, yeah. Show up to closing, there were no keys.
Oh wow!
So we had to go in and change all the locks anyway. Wow. But he we had to end it. He didn't even tell the tenants or anything. So we're like, hey, we're your new landlords. We're changing your locks.
I want to see his Rolodex. He's got you on speed dial. He's got to have a locksmith on speed dial. He's got a fire inspector. Yeah, you were just flipping through I need you here in 10 minutes.
Actually, Leo and I are he sent me his video clip, and he's like, this is business owner on a job site. And the whole time the guy's on his phone, pointing at stuff.
That's pretty much.
He's on the phone.
I went to one of our job sites to help the guys push it along the other day.
Yeah.
It took me 6 hours to hang a door, and I didn't freaking finish because every 3 minutes my phone would go off, and I'm answering a question from somewhere else.
Yeah.
At one point, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Just I'm gonna get out of your way. You guys do it.
Yeah.
So I think we're hitting the end of our episode here, but I guess if there's a piece of advice for somebody who wanted to get into real estate investing, right? Yeah. And wanted to learn more about the law side of real estate investing.
Yeah.
What do you think they should do then?
I mean, the biggest thing in all honesty is building a team. Mm-hmm. So just a lot of people will spend time thinking, all right, I need a contractor. I need this guy, I need that guy and everything on the development side and stuff. You got to build a team on the acquisition side. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing. That's where a lot of these transactions fall apart. So you need to work with an experienced realtor that understands the market. Because if you don't, you're not going to get the best deals. You're not going to understand what to do. You're not going to be in a position, if you're doing flips, for instance, you're not going to be in a position to do that flip if you don't have your ducks in a row. Because then you're starting almost from scratch. And then the legal side is important, making sure that you have an attorney that's responsive, an attorney that understands the transaction, understands that you're trying to do what you're trying to do, and then an accountant. Because you want to make sure you keep all of your records and you know what's going on and stuff like that. That's the thing, is building that team. Because like I said, a lot of these people will be like, yeah, I got a contractor. He's great. He's going to come in. He's going to take care of this thing. He's going to bang it out in 3 months. We're going to be back on the market. Heard that story before.
It's never 3 months, by the way.
I was just going to say, I've heard that story before. I'm sure you have too. But in any event, they get the project done, and then they're like, we're listing it. And I'm like, well, who are you listing it with? We don't know. And it's like, you don't know. You should have been when this project was... Yeah.
People get to the end of a project, they don't have
because they're new to the market. They don't understand like who to talk to and stuff. So you end up with situations.
If that ever happens, let me know.
Absolutely. But you end up with situations where they're just kind of like tripping over themselves because they didn't think ahead and be like, okay, the project's getting done. Let's start getting stuff squared away and start figuring this stuff out. So, you end up with situations like that. So that's the thing, in all honesty. If there's a tip, it's, just, you're going to need these people in your life to make these deals happen. You want to make sure that you get them kind of queued up from the beginning.
And John, how, if people wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get in touch with you then?
Yeah, I mean, so the website is probably the easiest way unless people are writing stuff down. But yeah, basically Jon Spino. I'm with Sassoon Simrat Law. So it's sassoonsimrat.com. So that's it. Yeah, basically if they need anything or if there's any follow-up questions, happy to do it.
All right. Well, thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure, guys. This was fun. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, John.
Yep. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.